We're back on our Team RCIA Facebook Live. We are going over a bunch of questions that we did not get to address from last week's Team RCIA community chat, where we had over 900 people signed up and 600 people on the online.
So we were talking about that was on March 45, I think. we were talking about
yes.
We were talking about scheduling all this stuff outside of the Easter Vigil and outside of the Triduum. And so what do we need to schedule? How do we schedule? That's what the community chat was about last time, and that's available on our YouTube page.
And on our
yes,
Team
and on our
RCIA
Team RCIA website. But we got a lot of questions we couldn't get to. There were just so many.
This is the reduced number of questions, 7 pages.
Yeah, so we're going to just touch on some of them. And if you have questions as we're live here, just type them into the comment box and we'll try to get to them.
Also on the teamrcia.com page, we've been doing a video pretty much every week for the last month or so. So one of the topics that we got a ton of questions on still are scrutinies. But we did do a video, a Facebook Live, about a 45-minute video just on scrutinies. So go to teamrci.com. Later I'll put a link to that in the comments to that video just on scrutinies, and take a look at that.
So just really quick, all 3 scrutinies are required before the elect can be baptized. And your bishop has the authority to dispense in really extreme situations, to dispense from up to 2 of them.
Yes.
And so some bishops have dispensed from 2, some have not. You have to find out from your diocese what the case is. But even if your bishop has dispensed from the scrutinies, that doesn't mean you cannot celebrate them. You absolutely should celebrate them if you can, because of how powerful they are in the formation of the elect.
Yes, you need to celebrate at least one. If your bishop has dispensed from 2 of them. There are 3 scrutinies total, and they go in order: woman at the well, man born blind, and the raising of Lazarus, all from the Gospel of John. And so one question we had, it was, if your bishop has dispensed from 2 of those scrutinies, which one do you do? Number 1, 2, or 3?
If you haven't celebrated any of them at all, and he's dispensed from 2 of them, then I would say you celebrate the last one, the raising of Lazarus. But if at all possible, you want to try to celebrate it all 3, because the scrutinies are not just discrete celebrations, they work in conjunction with each other. So the woman at the well leads to the man born blind leads to the raising of Lazarus. And if we just start with the raising of Lazarus, it's like coming into the movie at the climax. You've missed everything that built up to that.
So basically, do as many of the scrutinies as you can in that order. Woman at the well, man born blind, raising of Lazarus. If you can only do 1, because your bishop has dispensed with 2 and you can only do 1 for whatever reason, do the first one if you haven't celebrated that. If you have already, do the second one. So and again, the ritual texts have not addressed coronavirus, so you're not going to find answers about coronavirus.
No, I just told him to celebrate the last one. So
yes.
So
celebrate the last one.
Yeah, well, see, so there is no hard and fast rule. It's going to be a pastoral decision based on your community. I said the last one because that's the most powerful of them. But you can talk about why you said the first one.
Well, I thought you said the first one.
No.
Okay. See, we're all just befuddled and everything.
No hard and fast rule. The overall principle, this is what you want to keep in mind, the big principle, and we find this in the rite itself, in the RCIA, that the purpose of the scrutinies is to enlighten the elect about the power of Jesus to save. And those 3 stories work as a formation process of shaping your elect, of helping them grasp the mystery of Christ more deeply through those 3 stories. And as I said, they work progressively. So that's the overall principle you want to keep in mind. then if you're going to do fewer than 3, you want to compromise based on that overall principle. What is the best way to communicate that principle if you're not going to do all 3 of them?
So other questions we had about the scrutinies were, how do you celebrate them? And that webinar, or the recording that we did a few weeks ago, that really addressed a lot of those details.
Yeah.
Some people ask, can you do scrutinies on Zoom?
No.
As much as you can do Eucharist on Zoom,
yeah, so it's prayerful,
really,
it's holy, it's helpful, but it's not the scrutiny. Just like Mass, when we watch Mass on the computer, it's not Mass. You know, we are not participating in the Mass, even though we are watching and we're saying the prayers at home. We're not part of that sacrificial offering. And the same with the scrutinies. We can pray the prayers of the scrutinies online, but it's not an actual celebration of the scrutiny unless we're all together.
Yeah. So when you are able to gather together for a scrutiny, people were asking, does it have to be at a Sunday Mass? Because our schedule is all out of whack. No, it does not have to be at a Sunday Mass.
It doesn't even have to be at a Mass.
Yes, it can be at a Liturgy of the Word.
Yeah.
It can be at a weekday gathering. It can be at a small gathering. It doesn't have to be a gathering of the entire parish itself.
And if you do it as a Liturgy of the Word outside of Mass, a deacon can preside at it. So if you have a parish deacon and your pastor is overwhelmed with everything when we get back together, you can schedule a scrutiny with the deacon.
Here's a question that really isn't even about coronavirus scrutinies. Can uncatechized candidates, meaning baptized candidates, participate in the scrutinies? No.
Well, as a member of the assembly,
as a member of the assembly,
like you and I would participate in the scrutinies, but they would not be subjects of the scrutiny the way that the elect are.
Only the unbaptized are the ones.
Only unbaptized elect. So if your catechumen has not yet celebrated the rite of election, the catechumen can't participate. It's only for the elect.
Okay, readings. I think we talked about readings, so we're good with that. We talked about dispensation. One question that someone has is it the bishop who dispenses, or can your pastor decide about dispensing?
The bishop.
Yes. And that is in the rite itself.
Yeah,
paragraph 34, no, here, 20, paragraph 20.
Yes.
In your RCIA text. You want to say something about this RCIA text? Because we still get questions.
Every time we do this, people say, what is that RCIA you're talking about? So it is the official rite of the church, rite of Christian initiation of adults. It comes in lots of different covers. So if your cover doesn't look like this, don't worry about that. If it's, as long as it says somewhere, rite of Christian initiation of adults. And there's every English-speaking country in the world has this. In the UK, in Canada, in Australia, some of the local adaptations are a little different, but the main stuff that we're talking about today, the scrutinies, that's the same in everybody's RCIA.
All right, here's a question about dispensation. If no scrutinies were celebrated, can we still celebrate the rites of initiation?
Yeah, if you're going to read the RCA strictly and go strictly by the law, then no. All 3 are required. Now the liturgy police, you're not going to roll up to your door and stop the initiation if you celebrate initiation without the 3, and it won't be invalid if you do it. But it really is. It's more of a sense of, we're not trying to be rule bearers here and just strictly follow the letter of the law. We're trying to say, why is it so important that we do the scrutinies? And as we said, the elect are on this journey, especially a very long journey now for some of our elect. And at this moment, just before initiation, we want to give them a fuller revelation, a kind of a blessing of the Holy Spirit, a powerful consecration of the elect just before their initiation. And we do that through these 3 powerful prayers, these 3 powerful scrutiny rites that we celebrate with them. And so we don't want to deprive them of the fullness of that in any way at all if we can possibly avoid it. Now, everybody's situation is going to be different in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world. You're going to have to make a pastoral judgment based on that overall principle. But wherever possible, you want to celebrate all 3 of those scrutinies in the fullest way that you can with your elect.
This moves us into a little bit of a later question that we were going to look at, but the only time when the actual ritual itself says that you might dispense with all 3 scrutinies is in the case of an emergency. If a person is dying,
Right.
if there is a really grave, serious reason that that person cannot celebrate the fullness of all of the rites of initiation, which would include the scrutinies, the presentations, the preparation rites, all of that, there is an option in that emergency. So if there is a health emergency, if there's a person who is being deployed to the military in the next 2 weeks and you just really cannot do all of these rituals well with that person, that is an option. But in the normative sense, even outside of the usual timing, the scrutinies are required. Okay, so we did that. Combining the scrutinies and presentations, all of these questions.
Or combining the scrutinies. So one of the questions was about, can we just have a big Saturday retreat and celebrate all 3 scrutinies at once? The answer is no. The rite says they have to be celebrated about a week apart. So it has that progressive nature. So they have time to kind of marinate in the power of that prayer over the week. So they're designed to be celebrated, spaced out roughly 1 week apart. And the same with the presentations.
The presentations of the Creed and the Lord's Prayer, you can't do both in the same ritual because they have specific readings attached to each of those distinctive presentations. The presentation of the Lord's Prayer itself, is the gospel proclamation, is the gospel reading.
When the gospel reader proclaims that gospel, that is the presentation of the Lord's Prayer.
So we have to get rid of our sense of efficiency and immediacy when it comes to celebrating these rituals, even in this most unusual time, because we've waited long enough. We can wait a few more days in between, a week in between these scrutinies, if that is possible. So let's give the fullest experience for our elect.
Right. If you imagine in San Jose, for example, at our diocese, the elect have celebrated the rite of election. Most of them celebrated the first scrutiny. So then the lockdown happened. So when we come back together, there will be 2 scrutinies left to celebrate, and there will be 2 presentations probably left to celebrate. And so that would mean an extra delay of maybe 2 weeks from after we get back together, maybe 3 weeks. And so it's not a huge, much longer delay to be able to provide the fullness of these RCA rituals with our elect. Just to follow up on what can be combined and can't, we also cannot combine the scrutinies with the presentations. I've seen lots and lots of places that'll do the first scrutiny and the presentation of the Creed and mash them together. And it really is mashed together, and it looks mashed and it feels mashed, and it's not a beautiful, elegant celebration of either ritual.
No mashing unless it's mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes. All right, so let's see. We had some questions specifically on the presentations. Let's see. Can we invite our catechumens to daily Mass to celebrate the presentation of the Creed and the Lord's Prayer? Yes. Those can be celebrated at a weekday Mass.
And they can also be celebrated at a liturgy of the Word outside of Mass. However, I don't know why, when you celebrate the presentations of the liturgy of the Word, it still has to be a priest that presides at it. The scrutinies, the rite says very clearly a deacon may preside. But for the presentations, it has a priest presiding at the.
And we learned that from Father Paul Turner of the Archdiocese of Kansas. Diocese of Kansas.
Archdiocese is
on the other side. Diocese of Kansas City. The smartest person we know who knows.
Diana's the smartest person I know.
But he was clarifying that trivia point, which I think is an important point for the presentations. Let's see. So presentations need to be separated, done at different times. And here's a question. Are they optional? technically, no.
Yeah, again, you know, it's not, nobody's going to come and stop your baptism if you didn't do them, but it's about the fullness of what we can celebrate. For St. Augustine called these the treasures of the church, and he was so passionate about handing on these treasures, especially the Creed and the Lord's Prayer, to the catechumens. He writes beautifully about that, and we don't want to deny handing. I know they're all going to pray them at Mass, but it's the sense of we took a liturgical moment to hand these on carefully and prayerfully and blessedly to the elect, and we don't want to deprive them of that if at all possible. Again, your situation may not allow for that. That's a different case, but normatively, whenever possible, we should do this as fully as we can.
All right. We have a few questions on baptized candidates. So these are Christians who are already baptized,
Right.
who are preparing either to be received into the full communion of the Catholic Church, or these are baptized Catholics who are preparing for confirmation and Eucharist.
Yeah.
So one question was, well, for many of our baptized candidates, they did not get to celebrate some of their own rites during the period of purification and enlightenment, namely the penitential rite on the second Sunday of Lent. So what do we do with them?
So a couple things. So the way the question is phrased is, their initiation is delayed. The baptized people are already initiated. They're already baptized. And when they're Catholics, we say that sometimes we talk about completing their initiation. But when we're talking about folks baptized in traditions other than Roman Catholicism, their tradition and they themselves don't think of themselves as not initiated. They are baptized into Christ, and the church says that too. So what we're doing with them is receiving them into full communion. We're not initiating them. And there is the only ritual for reception into full communion is reception into full communion. There is an optional ritual of a penitential rite in the RCIA, but that's simply the sacrament of penance. So you can, as soon as we're able to gather again, your baptized candidates can celebrate the sacrament of penance either in a communal gathering, Form 2 of the RCIA, of the Rite of Penance, or in a private confession with individual confession, one-on-one with the priest. So that's still on the table. In fact, they probably would want to, and you would encourage them to do that. But that can happen. If we're gathering, let's say they're going to open the doors next week, next Sunday, we can all come back. So sometime this week, or even on Saturday afternoon before the Sunday celebration, they could celebrate that sacrament.
Here's a brainstorm. Here's a thought. It would be kind of interesting and maybe even beautiful once a parish community decides it's ready at their time to open the doors and gather together as a community to celebrate, to have some kind of preparatory rituals, some penitential rituals.
Not, small s sacrament, not the official sacrament.
Yeah, so we have the tradition of penitential liturgies that are not necessarily sacrament of penance. They are preparatory for the sacrament of penance, and they could include the sacrament of penance. But I think it would be beautiful for a parish to gather before that first Eucharistic gathering.
Yeah, and now have the whole community kind of enter into that. Sort of getting readiness for that'd be cool.
And then
people are going to be so excited about coming back, though. They'll probably just want to rush right to Sunday. I would, but that's it depends.
And it's also remembering that among us we have these people who have been waiting and preparing in a very special, unique way for the celebration of the sacraments, and this penitential entryway into that might be a beautiful acknowledgement of their presence. Okay, preparation. I think we're okay.
Well, somebody said I have baptized folks who would have been included at the Easter Vigil. So just generally, we counsel folks that the baptized people in general, as a norm, should not be included at the Easter Vigil. We should celebrate their reception of full communion at whatever Sunday Mass next comes up. So let's say we get a Lutheran Inquirer in August, and they're pretty well catechized in their Lutheran tradition, and so they spend some time doing formation in the Catholic tradition, and say by October they're ready to be received into full communion. So we should do that in October. We shouldn't make them wait till the Easter Vigil. And the same with our candidates now who've been waiting a long time. Let's say we come back and we're going to have a 3 or 4 week period of purification and enlightenment for the elect, and we're going to celebrate those scrutinies over that time with the elect. We don't need to make the baptized candidates wait through that. They can be received into full communion at the next Sunday liturgy. I'd say probably not the first one that we're all back, just because it's going to be a big hoopla, but second or third Sunday after we're back, they could celebrate their reception into full communion.
I do that celebration before your initiation sacrament.
Because then they can celebrate as fully, full members of the Catholic tradition. They can celebrate with the elect as they're baptized.
Preparation rites. These are the preparation rites that are usually celebrated on Holy Saturday, the morning of the Easter Vigil. The question is, should we celebrate those directly prior to the initiation sacraments? If possible, yes.
Yes. So if you're going to be, say the 4th Sunday in July is the day that you're going to do baptisms, then the 4th Saturday in July, you would do these preparation rites.
Part of the preparation, not specifically part of the preparation rites, but part of the preparation for the sacraments is the Paschal fast, which typically begins, is it Holy Thursday?
After the Mass on Holy Thursday. So
after the Mass of the Lord's Supper on Holy Thursday through through the beginning of the Easter Vigil, where we break our fast with the Eucharist. That's called the Paschal fast. And that is different from the Lenten fasting. Lenten fasting is penitential. Paschal fasting is this kind of anticipatory, we can't wait and we can't eat anything else because we're so excited, that kind of fasting. The question is, do children elect? Should they do that? If they're able to?
I would say whatever kind of, children are used to giving something up for Lent, even though they might not enter into a full fast like the rest of us do. So you could make some pastoral judgment about the children you're dealing with. What is it that they're able to fast from? Maybe they fast from screens from Thursday night to Saturday night, or they fast from sweets from Thursday night to Saturday night, something like that.
Here is a question specifically about sharing in the body and blood of Christ once a person who's unbaptized is baptized, confirmed, and it's time to celebrate the climax of their initiation, the sharing in communion. With this coronavirus pandemic, should we wait until we're all able to receive from the chalice, receive the blood of Christ? Or is it possible just to share with them the body of Christ in the consecrated host?
Well, you all know the theology of this, that the fullness of Christ is in either one of the elements, the consecrated elements. So if you share in either one of the consecrated elements, you've shared in the fullness of Christ. But the sign value is, the general instruction says the sign value is much fuller and more powerful, more capital S sacramental for us when we do the fullness of the Eucharist in both the bread and the cup. And so, again, our ideal here is that we would want the elect to share in both the body and the blood of Christ, especially at their initiation. So if there's health restrictions on that, then that might be an argument for delaying initiation until we can all share from the cup. So, but again, that's going to depend on your place and your elect. You're going to have to make that decision, but always know what the general principle is, what the ideal is, and as close as we can get to the ideal is what we should aim for. Because the elect are only going to celebrate this once, so we want to make sure that it's the fullest celebration, given our restrictions, that we're able to do.
They're going to celebrate Eucharist many times.
Oh, yeah. But their initiation Eucharist, they're only going to celebrate that once.
Margaret had a good question, which could actually be a solution. Can the elect have their own cup?
Right, so that might be a solution. But then, so then the assembly is not sharing the cup, which is a little, not ideal, but maybe it's a compromise that we make in this time.
Okay. We had one question on just the timing of when we would celebrate the sacrament. Specifically, would it be on a Sunday or at a special Eucharist, say on a Saturday or during the week? I think ideally Sunday is the day.
Yeah, good.
But again, our tradition is that Saturday night is Sunday.
Right. So if you're doing Saturday night as the vigil of Sunday, then that's that's what we do with the Easter Vigil. The Easter Vigil is considered a Sunday liturgy. It's not the Saturday liturgy.
So some people are planning for May 30, which is the vigil of Pentecost.
Yeah, I think that's optimistic. Pentecost. We'll see.
But some places can and some places might, and so that would be perfect. One idea that you had written about was August 15, which is a Saturday.
Right. So the Feast of the Assumption, and I've gotten some pushback on that because it's a Marian feast, and some folks are saying that's not appropriate for celebrating initiation. So you're going to have to wrestle with that. The reason I suggested it was I think the image of Mary as disciple, an image of Mary as the one who says yes, image of Mary as the one who sort of follows Christ without question, is kind of wonderful imagery to use. But your mileage may differ. So, but you don't want to just pick a random Saturday or random Tuesday because it fits everybody's schedule or something. You want to make it. You especially want to focus on Sunday. It should be a Sunday, and we said this in the chat last week. If the readings for the given Sunday don't really work for you, you have the option of using the readings from the Easter season. So you can use the Easter Sunday readings on the day that you baptize, if it's an ordinary time Sunday. If you choose a solemnity like August 15th, you have to use the readings for that day. But anytime you choose a solemnity is always a reflection of Christ. It's never a reflection primarily of the saint being celebrated. It's the saint's life in Christ that is celebrated.
So go read that blog post and weigh in on what you think about that. Yeah. Now, we had a ton of questions on a very specific topic in terms of ritual books. Once you do celebrate the baptism, confirmation, and celebration of the Eucharist with your elect, which ritual do you use? Now, it might seem obvious. You use the baptismal ritual, but we actually have 3 different books that contain nuanced versions of the baptismal ritual. The primary text that you're going to use for your adults, and that includes children who have reached the age of reason, who are unbaptized, will come from the rites of Christian initiation of adults. In the United States, that ritual for baptism, for initiation, begins at paragraph 218. Not page 218, but paragraph 218. If you're in a different country, check.
Yeah, I think it's like closer to 318 or something if you're in Australia or Canada, but you'll find it.
Yes.
It's the title is Celebration of the Sacraments of Initiation.
So that ritual starts after the homily.
Yeah.
Okay. So now in the Mass itself, there's still other prayers that are specific to baptism that you need to include. Those prayers you're going to find in the rites of baptism from the Roman Missal. Now, this is my Coolio small travel handy edition of the updated Roman Missal. You can buy this from WOP.
I think it says on the flyleaf, Nerd Edition.
I now pull this out of my really big back pocket whenever I need to find something in the Roman Missal. But you would go to the ritual for baptism, and that's where you'll find the opening prayer,
prayers of the Mass, basically.
Yes, the preface, all of the stuff that isn't specific to that middle part that happens after the homily. Now, where people are getting a little mixed up because it just came out is the revised order of baptism. Before, it used to be called just order of baptism. Now it's it's specific to who this is for, the order of baptism of children. Now, when this is for infants.
Yeah, anybody who's not reached the age of reason. So a 5-year-old might not be considered an infant, but maybe also might not be considered to have reached the age of reason. Although our nephew is 5 years old, and if he had not already been baptized as an infant, I would argue that he should be baptized according to the rite of Christian initiation of adults, because he is pretty self-aware and understands a lot of Christian discipleship issues. But anybody who's not made it to that level of intellectual, spiritual, emotional understanding, they would use this rite, order of baptism, for children or for infants.
Okay, so that's ritual texts. Now there were questions on what readings then would you use?
Yeah.
Would you use the Easter Vigil readings because you're celebrating baptism? No, because it's not Easter Vigil. You're going by what day you're actually celebrating the rite itself. If it's a solemnity like Pentecost or another Easter, another Sunday in Easter, you have to use the readings for that day. If it's an ordinary time Sunday or another day that is not a solemnity, you have the option to change the readings.
So your option is to change them to the readings for the season of Easter. So you can use the readings for Easter Sunday on the Sunday that you baptize, the readings for the second Sunday of Easter on the Sunday after that, and so on and so on. You can use from any cycle A, B, or C, but the rite says that cycle A is especially appropriate for initiation. So I would choose cycle A no matter what year we were in. We will never have to do this again, pray to God, but you know.
In the lectionary, is there a set of readings for initiation for baptism? I'm not sure.
I don't know the answer.
Well, look,
look it up. But it's the Easter cycle readings. So you just go to your lectionary for whatever the readings are.
Yes, so go to yet another ritual book. Mm-hmm. This is why we have so many.
That's why we have a bookshelf. Yeah.
Because there's so many ritual books. Okay, now some really ultra nerdy liturgy geekerage happening right here.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm a little worried.
We had a few questions about specific parts of the baptismal rite.
I told Dana, we were talking about this before, and I said, when we get to this, you do this, because I can't keep up.
But I was responding to someone's question on this by email, and I thought this is actually really important. So in the RCIA, in the sacrament of baptism, you have the calling of the candidates forward, the people who are going to be baptized. Then you have the litany of saints, and you process to the baptismal font. You have the blessing of water. You have the renunciation. Do you reject Satan? Then the profession of faith. Do you believe in God? And then the dunking and everything else. And then as part of that Easter Vigil celebration is also the renewal of baptismal promises by the assembled faithful. Now, if you're, say, celebrating your sacraments on Pentecost or some other day of the year that is not Easter Vigil, there is no renewal of baptismal promises. Paul Turner, again, will say, doing an analysis on the renewal of baptismal promises, says that it's really tied to the Easter Vigil celebration itself. All of the Lenten preparation by the baptized is a preparation for them to renew their baptismal promises that normally take place at Easter Vigil. So when this happens outside of Easter Vigil, should you include the renewal of baptismal promises? If you are following the rite in the Roman Missal and the liturgical year, technically no. But I would say in this coronavirus circumstance, the faithful have not had an opportunity to renew their baptismal promises. They need a moment to be able to do that. So I would say when you celebrate the baptism of your elect, you would also include the renewal of baptismal promises by the faithful. And the Sundays and the Masses that precede that, if you've been gathering, you would not do the renewal. You would do the creed as a normal Sunday for the faithful. But when you celebrate baptism, you would include the renewal of the baptismal promises for the faithful as a completion of their Lenten preparation, you know, because we haven't completed it yet. See, I went geekerage. Nick is giving me the sign. You can't see. He's tapping my leg saying, there, calm down, dear. Let's move on. Okay, moving on. What else?
You're controlling the questions.
Oh, sure. Well, we did that. You want to do?
Yeah, somebody said, what do we do about vacations? Well, what do you do about vacations any other time? You know, people have to make, if the vacation is more important than initiation right now in their life, then they're not ready for initiation, I think. So you're going to have, you just have to figure out with folks where their priorities are. Ideally, you know, I know everybody's different, but ideally, folks would have been so well formed by now that initiation is going to be the highest priority thing on their list. But some folks, you know, they have other reasons for becoming Catholic and becoming flaming, raving disciples of Jesus, you know, so we can't, not everybody's going to be in that place. So you have to make pastoral decisions. But I would say, you know, generally, again, as an overall principle that maybe you're going to have to compromise on in your specific situation, I would say as an overall principle, if folks are not ready for initiation on the fourth Sunday of July or whenever your diocese is going to do it, then they would wait till the next Easter Vigil. I wouldn't schedule unless there's an emergency, I wouldn't schedule a separate initiation just for them.
Connected to that, you know, we're thinking summertime, we're thinking, oh, this is the time that parishioners go away on vacation. That may be true in any other year, but I think our regular secular seasons have been so skewed that summertime is not automatically vacation time.
Yeah, that's all regional. It depends on where you are.
Yeah, so I'd say make it a big deal for the date that you're going to celebrate these sacraments, and get your entire parish behind that and make it important.
Well, it's a diocesan decision. It's up to your bishop to decide the date. Now, your bishop might delegate that decision to each individual parish, and so different parishes in a diocese might have different dates. But as a rule, it's up to the bishop to decide what the date of baptism is.
We had some questions on mystagogy. Last week's Facebook Live, we talked about how to do mystagogy when you haven't celebrated sacraments just yet, I think. So go and find that video. We posted it at tmarcia.com. I'll also post it in the comments here. But yeah, we're doing mystagogy right now.
Yeah, but basically mystagogy is not mystagogy. The place of mystagogy is the Sunday liturgy, and it is the Sunday liturgies of the Easter season. And since we have not been able to gather for those, then you would celebrate those readings, those Sundays, you know, till the fourth Sunday of July, the first Sunday of August, the second Sunday of August, the third Sunday, and so on. So for 8 weeks, including the Sunday you do baptism, you would do the readings from the Easter lectionary. And those Sunday celebrations would be the mystagogy, the period of post-baptismal catechesis and mystagogy for the neophytes. It's not more classes, it's not more gatherings on Wednesday night. It is those Sunday celebrations with those Easter readings that is mystagogy.
And is that required to change the readings for those Sundays?
No, it's not required. It just makes the experience seems more like a baptismal experience. But so if you're going to do the ordinary time readings throughout the summer on the Sundays after baptism, your elect would still show up for those Sundays, and those Sundays would be considered the mystagogical experience, or the mystagogical period for them.
And I think you're not making that up, because I think you saw that at the bottom of this page.
Paragraph 247 in the RCIA.
Yes. Even when Christian initiation has been celebrated outside the usual times, the texts for these Sunday masses of the Easter season may be used.
Yeah, and again, it's that fullness principle. So you want to use them because that would provide the fullest experience for the neophytes. That's our main goal. And I'm not sure why there'd be any reason why we wouldn't do that unless a solemnity pops up in that, whatever that span is. You'd have to do the readings of the solemnity. But throughout ordinary time, it's a very simple thing to just change those readings.
So I think we'll end with this last general question. What are we doing now for both our elect as they're preparing for the eventual day of their baptism, and for seekers? Surprisingly, a lot of communities are
inquirers
receiving.
are showing up, which makes sense because people are in a liminal state right now. They're anxious, they're afraid, and the church is a place of solace. So people are showing up.
So what we do right now is what we're doing right now as parish in the best way that we can given the circumstances. We pray at home. We connect in whatever ways are possible. We do faith sharing. We might watch Mass on Sundays or during the week. We might find other online ways to pray together separately. We do works of mercy and charity. We do spiritual reading. All of these things are ways that you can continue to sustain your elect and candidates as they're waiting for the sacraments, and also ways to involve seekers who are coming to you right now asking, how do I become Catholic? How do I get baptized?
Formation for life in Christ is living with the disciples of Christ. That's the primary formation. It's not lectures and classes, and it's living with, hanging out with other Christians and learning by example. So the way that we're Christian now in this lockdown situation is the formation. And the elect should already have been formed in this. They, one of the discernments for their readiness for rite of election is, do they know how to live as a Christian? Have they been living as Christians? And their godparents say, yes, they have. And so they should be helping with the formation of the new inquirers now, and demonstrating what it is to live as a Christian in these kind of difficult circumstances.
Yeah. So, and I think you wrote an article specifically on that. Yes, Nick's been just a writing machine these last, well, he's always a writing machine, but even more so now. So go to tmrcia.com and find all those resources, because that's what we're here doing for you in our own ministry.
And we've been doing this since 2007. So we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resources on our website. And we're creating a new way for folks to access those more easily. And that's going to launch in about a week. We're going to give everybody a way to make use of our resources in a more convenient way. But you can get a sneak peek right now if you go to teamrci.com/mbr. And you can go take a look up there, and you can there's a place to sign up to get notified when we do the official launch. So if you want to know more about how to access these resources, go check that out.
And then one more resource.
And Diana just put the link in the comment.
One more opportunity for you to gather with other passionate ministers who are doing this work of celebrating the sacraments and preparing those for sacraments is our community chat. As soon as I get it up here, hold on. Our community chat that's taking place next week with
Lisa Anslinger. And I'm really excited about this. Now, this one you have to sign up for. It's not going to be a Facebook Live, but it's free. So sign up for it. And what we're going to do with Lisa wrote a book on a vision for conversion, a planning process that's radically going to change your RCIA. And basically what we're going to do in this is use her planning principles to look at how we plan for an ongoing process. Because now all of us, none of us could end at summertime, or after Easter like we're used to. We're all now in an ongoing process. So let's just keep doing that. But let's make a plan for it so we don't burn everybody out and kill ourselves. And that's what we're going to talk with Lisa about, is how do we make a plan, an effective parish-wide plan for doing ongoing RCIA.
So the link to sign up for that is also in the comments. And hopefully we'll get even more people signed up than we did last week. We almost broke 1,000, not quite, but let's see if we can do that this
And
time.
the site only holds 1,000, so if you're the 1,001st person to sign up, you're going to be disappointed because you won't get in. So you want to make sure that you get signed up.
So as always, we are just so happy that you've joined us here during your own shelter in place, and we are continuing to pray daily for each of you in whatever ministry that you are in.
Sometimes it's prayer of desperation. Oh God, when is this going to end? But we do pray for you all.
So thank you, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for spending this time with us.
Wednesday community chat next week.
All right, everyone, take care.
Thank
God bless.
you. Bye.